have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the Bold Moves podcast. I am the host, Mandy Mucci, and this is episode number 69. Today, I had the pleasure of speaking with Michelle Lewis, who left a glamorous job in Hollywood as a stand-in after some soul searching to find herself the head of Visibility Vixen. She's the woman behind it. There is a podcast, there are e-courses, there's website, and potentially soon group coaching that is all centered around helping female entrepreneurs become more visible and attract the clients that they really want. I found her super inspiring and loved what she had to share about the mindset work that she does and really the science behind fear, the science behind negativity in our minds. I think she was incredible to talk to, and I hope you love listening to this interview or watching it if you're watching on YouTube. She also was so generous to offer access to one of her courses, the Life Reboot, to one winner. So stay tuned to the end so you can hear how you can win that. All right, without further ado, here is Michelle Lewis. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bold Moves podcast. I am with Michelle Lewis, who is also a fellow podcaster. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thanks, girl. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. So, of course, you know that the name of the show is called Bold Moves, and you've obviously done some bold moves of your own to earn the spot on the show. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the bold moves you've made?
Well, hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here on this show. How awesome to have a podcast called Bold Moves that features people that have kind of had to get out of their comfort zone and take that leap. It's definitely a nerve-wracking thing, and I don't think you ever feel 100% ready. At least I didn't. For me, a little bit of background is I am from the TV film world. I grew up following my dad around the world on movie sets. He was an assistant director, producer, and felt like that was my calling. That's where I was supposed to be. So before I knew it, after college, I was working full-time as a stand-in on shows like Chuck and Pretty Little Liars and Numbers. And it was hard. I think in my mind, I thought, oh, I'm going to write and act and produce, and it's going to be simple because I'm in LA and I grew up in it. Not so much. So as a stand-in, what you do is you replace the actor when they're not actually recording. So the lighting, the camera, the sound pretty much follows you around for the entire scene for however long it takes. And some setups take half an hour, some take 2 or 3 hours, and you're just pretty much a mannequin. And it was, even though it was a simple job, it was 14 to 16 hours a day. It was exhausting. It was frustrating.
Long.
So long. And, you know, you're not really getting compensated in the level that you want, and there's really nowhere to grow. And I got so frustrated with that. I knew that I had more to offer. I had gotten, you know, music degrees and natural healing degrees and all this stuff. And I just went, I can't do this anymore. I was coming home and crying every day. And my husband finally said, you know what, just take just even a month off and just figure out what is it that you want to do. And that led to me creating my first e-course. I had no idea what I was doing. That's back when everything was through WordPress. And I'm like, how do I code? Like, I had no idea. And then I was at coffee with a girlfriend, and she said, well, why don't you teach people online how to do video? And I went, everyone knows how to do video. And she was like, no, they don't. So
it's amazing what is so easy to us that, you know, to other people, it's natural because we do it all the time. And then other people are like, I would love to know how to do that.
Exactly. So that's what started me on my journey. And I can't believe it's been almost 2 years since I left and, you know, running my own business now. I really honestly never saw it coming, but now I can't imagine doing anything else.
It's so interesting because I feel like, especially from an outsider who's maybe never spent time on set, what you had before is probably a lot of people's dream job, or at least a beginning of a dream job. And for you to be like, no, this isn't, what I have to offer, and to step away from that, I think is really brave and really cool. So kudos
so
to you
kind
for
of
that.
you. Thank you. Well, and as a stand-in, like a lot of people don't really, like you said, they're not familiar with the environment, and it's never intentional, but you're seen as less than, because you're not background, you're not an actor, you're coming in to do a job. And so, yeah, people are like, oh yeah, this is a great stand-in, and they recommend each other. But overall, you're kind of seen as second class. And especially as a woman, and especially if you've had any kind of visibility issues in the past, which I did, it just kept repeating those tapes and reinforcing those tapes that, you shouldn't be seen. And yeah, you're in front of the camera, but not when it's actually recording and all those things.
Yeah.
So sometimes, even though we're in a job that feels safe, or maybe it pays enough money, you have to also be aware of what is it doing to your psyche? What's it doing to your spirit? And I know that was a huge reason why I had to get out.
That makes complete sense to me, because I've definitely been on both sides of that coin, where you might be well compensated, but it feels terrible and you dread going to work. And even if it's somebody else's dream and not yours, that doesn't mean that you should stick to it. So
absolutely.
And I don't know, from a stand-in's perspective, I'm primarily a makeup artist. So I have spent time on sets and know that there's a lot of sitting around and waiting, and then all of a sudden you have to hurry up, and then all of a sudden you're back to sitting and waiting for something to happen. And even if you're not doing anything most of the day, it can be so tiring, especially with the long hours. So
well, and you're under those fluorescent lights all day long. You're usually like, it's never, oh, we're out at the beach and it's sunny and cool and relaxing. It's like you're in a sound stage that is probably filled with asbestos, and you're under all these fluorescent lights all day long. It can be so draining, and you can really lose your concept of like, what day is it? What time is it? Like, you have no idea, right?
Absolutely. So with that in mind, I mean, did you take a full month off from with your husband's advice, or how did it go from being totally burnt out and feeling kind of soul crushing to coffee with a friend, and now you have a new career?
Yeah. So for me, I was wrapping a show, and it was a Disney show. So it was nice because it was only 3 days a week, but I was still miserable. And I was like, okay, so this isn't really the hours. This isn't really, that kind of a thing. This is just not what my heart wants to do. So I did, once that show wrapped, I took some time off, and I thought about like, what would be the best accumulation of my knowledge. And I used to have very severe health problems and was able to heal my body naturally from multiple organ failure. So I went, what if I made like a 30-day course called Life Reboot that would help someone, if they felt out of alignment, mind, body, or spirit, to really get back into, who am I? What's my purpose here? And how can I serve? So that's what I spent about a month doing. And, me and my husband were taping all the time, and it was a really huge undertaking, but that's how that got started. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm going to be a life coach. Right. And then I went into the Facebook groups and was like, oh my gosh, like there's coaches everywhere. Like, how do you stand out? Like, oh my goodness, it was totally terrifying to me. So when my friend, who was also stepping out into the online space at the same time, when we sat down and she told me that over coffee, I went, I wonder if this is a niche I should pursue. And so then I built a course called Video University, and the feedback was so much more like exciting, and people wanted this, that's what kind of made me figure out, okay, I can put all of these under the umbrella of visibility. And that was back in 2015. And so that's how I got started.
That's very cool. So you talked a little bit about, during that month, sort of looking for your purpose. Do you know what it is at this point? If so, what is it? Or how do you feel about, I guess, the whole purpose question?
I think it would be very, very rare to come out of your full-time or part-time job knowing exactly what you're supposed to do, who you're supposed to serve, and what your mission is. I think there's a solid year probably of self-discovery. That's what I found. Most people, it's about a year. For me, it was about a year. And I know it's frustrating because we want to speed up that process, but as an entrepreneur, you're constantly evolving.
Mhm.
So what you're going to offer day 1 is going to be very different than day 60 or day 120. So you have to have the patience with yourself to go, wherever I'm at in my growth is totally fine. And I can serve in the way that I can serve exactly where I'm at now. Because we tend to put all this pressure, like, okay, I'm the CEO of my own business and I need to be making this much a month and I need to have this many
Right.
people on my list and da-da-da-da. It's like that level of expectation will only make you crash and burn. So for me, it definitely took some time and it morphed over time. I have one girl in my group who was with me from the very first day, and she's like, oh my gosh, like being able to see you grow has
Yeah.
inspired me, knowing I don't have to be perfect every step in the way and my business will grow as I do. So it's a really exciting thing if you can relax into easing off the pressure and
Mhm.
just really explore who you want to be.
How do you personally keep track of where you should be heading and evolving without, because it sounds like the advice that you're giving is great, but it also sounds really different from what I hear from a lot of people who think about, begin with the end goal in mind and decide where you want to be and follow that path and take steps every day toward it, where you're kind of seem like you're more like, okay, like be in tune with what you're doing, what you're feeling, and kind of evolve and move around. How do you feel about the difference between that? And then with your path, how do you stay on track knowing that you're evolving where you want to be?
Totally. So I'm a type A, like organized shark personality. So I can definitely, like you see the board behind me, I'm like writing things out and I know exactly how I'm going to be moving forward. I tend to not put numbers down. I'm not like, I need to make $10,000 this month or something like that, just because I find that if that doesn't happen, I self-punish because
Right.
I'm a very like high achiever. So I think, of course, you can make your goals and take action steps to get there. But usually when people are first stepping out, what they don't understand about entrepreneurship, which took me a while to understand, is that it's only about 20% business. 80% is personal growth.
Yeah.
So if you don't work on your wounds, your trauma, your past, because more than likely where you're like teaching in your business revolves around what you've learned because of your past wounds. So if you don't dig into that and resolve and move forward, you're going to be like spinning on a hamster wheel. So that's why I think the self-work is so important. And then of course you can keep yourself accountable with systems moving forward, having those goals. But most of the time, especially the women in my group, they tend to step into the space and be like, okay, I'm going to define it. I have 5 pillars. I want to reach all of these different people. And okay, I need to go. And so I'll send out a broadcast. And okay, I'll make a video. And it's like that squirrel syndrome. So it's really important to start small. Start with one pillar of your business. Start with sending out one newsletter a week or making one live stream. Like just get in the habit of being productive in your business. And those tiny little steps, I write down 3 action steps per day. That's it.
Yeah.
Because then I can actually tangibly see growth rather than being stuck and overwhelmed, wondering what I'm going to do first.
That's great advice. I love it. So kind of going back to what you said about how you self-punish if you didn't make any specific monetary or number goal. I'm curious, with your dad's background and feeling like you didn't get to where you wanted to be as a stand-in, was there any like work you needed to do around that to feel, that you just weren't serving your purpose, as opposed to maybe not feeling as successful as you felt you should have been, or maybe your dad felt you should have been?
Oh my goodness, yes. That's such a like loaded, beautiful question. Because
I was like, I hope she doesn't think this is offensive. I hope I word it the
not
correct
at
way, because I
all.
don't mean it to be at all. But
I think this is important to talk about because a lot of people look at people that are more visible in the online space and go, I'm never going to get there. They're so this, they're so that. I hear that all the time. And so girls will literally message me and be like, do you really think you can help me around visibility? Because you're so beautiful. You have all this stuff put together, da, 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 da. They don't know what I've been through to get here. I mean, I had horrible cystic acne all throughout my teens. I was told by a famous actress who was my acting coach when I was 14 that I would never be pretty enough or thin enough to ever be successful on camera, which is, I think that's exactly why I became a stand-in, because it was like, here I'm just right there, but it's not recording, so I'm not going to be seen. It was actually very clever that I designed that for myself.
No kidding. 14 is so hard for everyone, but then much less to throw that in. That's heartbreaking. I'm so glad that you were able to find your way around that, because
it took, you know, how old am I now? It took 15 years. I mean, it took a long time.
Yeah.
So do I wish I would have had someone there like myself back then to be like, no, she's talking because she's wounded. Like, don't listen, da, 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 da. But we all go through these experiences for a reason. I created, starred in, and produced a television pilot called Studio City. And we pitched it to all these different networks when I was 22. And we were so excited. And I was on that Disney set, and I got an alert on my phone that said a network had taken my pitch pilot idea and shot a pilot called Studio City. And I remember sitting on that film set, and I stepped out and I just sobbed, because it was like, it took so much for me to design this, to act in it, and actually step out and be in front of the camera.
Sure.
And, you know, we had the connections to go to these different studios and pitch this idea, and they all turned us down, but took the idea, morphed the characters just enough to make it legal, and shot the pilot. So that, I mean, talk about epic failures in film that I've had for so long. Like, any rational person would have just been like, oh, like, I'm never getting on camera again. But who better to coach female entrepreneurs stepping out in their visibility, but someone who's been utterly and inevitably invisible themselves. So I think that's the lesson in that. No matter how much pain and failure you feel like you've been through in this field, you are going to use every single bit of it as an online entrepreneur. I'm live streaming almost every day. I'm editing my videos. I'm shooting my videos. I'm putting together a summit where we're actually going to sit down and tape it. Like, I get to use all of my experience every single day. It's just a little bit different.
That's very cool. So you mentioned this pilot that you shot. Was that the scariest thing that you've ever done, or what was the scariest thing you've ever done?
Oh my goodness. Definitely in terms of visibility, that was scary. I remember the night before we were shooting, and I was just in the shower, just sitting there on the floor, just like, I can't do this. I can't. There's no way. How can I step out? And oh my gosh, like, all this is weighing on my shoulders. It was terrifying. But I think, you know, coming from a history of more severe health problems, I knew what it was like to A, choose to live, B, get up every single day. So even though, of course, these different failures have felt debilitating, I know what it's like to go, okay, all I can do is try one more time and get up and keep going. And I know that that's definitely held me in good stead, especially in this industry, which is so hard, right?
Absolutely.
It's so hard. And so much of it is lonely and isolating. And you have to do those little steps every day, and you have to be diligent, and then you start to gradually see results. But it can be a huge pain point for a lot of people, because they are still stuck in that, no, I'm invisible, and no, this is going to fail stage. So it takes a while to adjust your perspective.
I love that. It's so true, and such a great reminder. So how would you suggest to other people who are at a moment when they are scared to push past the fear like you did? Because obviously you've gotten out of that shower, and even though the pilot didn't go the way you hoped, you still did it, and that's a big victory on its own.
Absolutely. And I mean, and it led to other beautiful opportunities. So I think the advice I would give you to anyone who's listening and feeling that immersion of failure or discouragement or fear, you have to also be really aware of your subconscious mind. And that's the computer that all it wants to do is protect you. And every one of us has a very similar subconscious. We're all built the same way.
Right.
And your subconscious is convinced, especially if you've been through a lot of trauma or failures, that the only thing that matters is you being safe.
Right.
because it doesn't differentiate, a pilot falling through from, a horse attacking you when you were 3.
Right.
So the subconscious's desire is for you to either live like on your couch or in your bed.
Like a bubble of safety.
Yes. And it goes great. She can close the door. She can crawl under her covers. I've done my job. She's safe. Like, yeah. Right.
Absolutely.
So if you're feeling that, know that more often than not, that's the subconscious doing its job. And the body always follows the mind. So you have to become more aware of your thoughts and figure out, if I'm feeling like a failure chronically, if you're feeling that every day or twice a week or whatever, you know that your thoughts are shaping these feelings.
Right.
So it's really important to write them out and figure out what wounds are these coming from. And then just like a computer, you have to create a new program. You have to design your future. You have to make sure that you're creating your feelings. And I think that's something that's a little bit of a misconception of what we see a lot online is people are like, oh, just feel it and just, step into your feelings and blah, blah, blah. It's like, sure, if you want to resolve them, but don't just, swim around in them. Take responsibility for where are those feelings coming from in terms of your thoughts and start rewriting them. That's such a powerful thing. Affirmations, intentions, they can do incredible things and absolutely change your life, because instead of being the victim to everything around you, oh, here's another validation of my failures, those kinds of things, you're actually creating a new future for yourself.
I love that. I love, first of all, the way that you described the immersion of fear, because I definitely can identify, and I'm sure most listeners have felt just surrounded by it. And then I love that you went to the biological, physiological, description of why we have it, because you're so right. And how we've evolved and the world has evolved around us is definitely different, where it's like pressing, go live on a Facebook video can be a scary feeling to our bodies as, cavemen times where maybe a mammoth was chasing us. I don't know if we were around at the same time as mammoths, but our body, same physical reaction though. So I love that you, kind of unpacked that for everyone, because I think remembering that and just acknowledging it too, and just feeling like it's okay to feel this way. And like, this is why I feel this way from a biological standpoint, I think would be really comforting to a lot of type A analytical people, especially. So thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. We get confused sometimes thinking that what the reality that we're in is the only possible reality, and it's never going to change. And so when you're able to look at your body on a cellular level to understand that it really is serving you, that's the body's whole purpose, is to serve you and your intention. And that's why I tell people, even though they get a little mad at me, that you're 100% responsible for who you are and where you're at. And that's hard, right? Because we can't blame it on anybody. Yeah.
Right.
It's really tough love. But, Joe Dispenza talks about this in a book I'll be recommending in a minute, but our brain produces something called neuropeptides, which is pretty much emotion molecules. We have receptor sites on our cells, which the molecules come down and attach to. Okay. So if you suddenly have anger, someone does something that really upsets you and triggers you, the brain goes, oh, produce these peptides of anger, send them to every cell. And it does that in 5 minutes. It then takes 4 hours to flush out of our body. Wow. So if you can think about how you have that sudden feeling of depression, fear, anxiety, and we're like, I don't know where this is coming from. But if you can stop and go, okay, so these are the peptides going on in my body. What have I sent out to them to make them produce this, right?
Sure.
It's such a powerful thing, because we're actually addicted to these emotions, because when the cells have daughter cells, they require more of that emotion. So that's why we tend to get progressively worse, progressively more into failure, fear, depression, or anger. So I know I'm getting a little bit more scientific, but I think I
love it. It's such a different perspective, and it's so empowering to know that, because I assume eventually you would be able to stop the peptides in the first place.
Yes. Well, and if you're taking control of your thoughts and writing out affirmations and repeating them daily and really following your thoughts throughout the day, then you start producing those positive emotions as peptides, and your cells start getting addicted to the positive ones. That's where you see a lot of entrepreneurs that are insanely successful. Chalene Johnson, Marie Forleo, Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk. It's because they've made that shift so that now they're constantly in that addiction phase in a good way of feeding those positive emotions to flow throughout their body to attract opportunities and relationships and forward momentum.
I love that. You just named quite a few of my heroes back to back. So, and I was wondering when you said the 3 things a day, I'm like, I wonder if she has a Smart Life push journal. Are you?
I don't know, but I do have, I have Conquer Your Year with Natalie McNeil.
Okay.
And she's fantastic too.
Got it. I love it.
Yeah.
So we've kind of already naturally went this direction, and I was going to ask you earlier, but we keep going on fantastic tangents, which is perfectly fine. And you have shown that you knew it was coming, but what are some books that you have to recommend? Because I think we have a lot in common in working on mindset and personal development, and you obviously know how important it is. So I'm excited to know what recommendations you have.
Absolutely. I have 2 recommendations.
Okay.
The first one is by Paul Hegstrom, and it's called Broken Children, Grown-Up Pain.
Okay.
And it's a brilliant book, and it will either help you unlock why you keep attracting toxicity into your life, or it will help you understand the people that you've loved the most and why they've wounded you.
Okay.
It's an incredible eye-opener, and I recommend it to every single person I come across.
Okay.
The second one is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. I shout his name from the rooftops just because he's such a fantastic individual, and he got in a very tragic accident where he broke so many bones in his spine, and he was able to regenerate his tissue through mental work.
I've heard of a couple people doing similar type things. That's
he's
fascinating.
He's a stunning individual. I know I'm going to meet him one day, and I can't wait. But he goes through in the book to teach you these concepts of the peptides and the neural pathways, and he has all the scientific proof to back it up. So that book changes people's lives. So that's my number one recommendation. If nothing else, if you've heard nothing else of the show, go grab that book because it is absolutely revolutionary.
Okay, that's fantastic. I'm curious with the title, it sounds so different than the advice a lot of people give of being yourself. Is it more from that scientific level? Like you should still, keep your traits, but manage your emotions in a more healthy way, or how would you describe with the interesting title?
Yeah. He breaks down so much, including what I was talking about on the cellular level, but also what makes up a personality. So some people have a really nice personality, but you would ask them, okay, in the depths of your heart and when you're all alone, do you tend to get down on yourself? Do you tend to, feel insecure? Do you tend to blah, blah, blah? And I would think that almost all people would say yes.
Sure.
So it really breaks down, okay, your personality is a collection of repeated actions and reactions, which is based on emotions, which is based on thoughts. So the whole book really goes into you diving into the core of your being to figure out why are you the way you are and what patterns have created that. Which ones do you want to keep? And now which ones do you want to change? So let's start rewriting and making you into the person you truly want to be, but feel like you can't quite get to because you feel stuck.
That sounds amazing.
It's so good. You're going to love it.
I can't wait to read it. So you said that you plan to meet him, and you probably don't know how yet, but it's going to happen. If we want to check that out, stay up to date on when you do, or see what you're doing online, where can we see you and all the amazing work you're doing? And your podcast too, since you're a fellow podcast, you can plug that.
Absolutely. It's so easy. All of it is at Visibility Vixen. So you can either just YouTube Visibility Vixen or Google. I have my site. My podcast is the same name. And you can always say hi on social media. If you listen to the episode and you want to shout me out, I would love to hear from you. But yeah, very easy. It's all Visibility Vixen.
That's nice and easily memorable. So aside from the books that you are recommending, what other just general advice would you give to anyone who's potentially looking at stepping outside of his or her comfort zone?
I do have a free video training series if people want to check that out on my homepage at Visibility Vixen, where I take you more in depth in terms of what the issues behind your visibility are and how to uproot them.
Okay.
I think it's really important to have a daily routine,
Okay.
a daily ritual. So whatever brings you joy. For me, I get up, I listen to a brief meditation. Joe Dispenza has an app, so I listen to him on there. And then I go to the coffee shop, and that's when I do my devotional and my studies and my enlightenment books and all of that. So I don't dive into work until I've done that for at least 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
And I think that that's really important, because when you get up and go to your desk and work, and then shove some food in your mouth and then work, and then it's 11:30 p.m. That's how I spent my first 6 months of my business. And
Yeah.
I wish I could say I got so much done, but now I work in my business anywhere between 2 to 4 hours a day, and I get so much more done because I focused on the daily ritual and doing all the self work. So my brain changed, the chemistry of my brain changed. I can process information much more quickly than I used to. So I think figure out what's your jam, what works for you. Do you like to walk and listen to podcasts? Do you like to go to the gym, do a meditation, do yoga, sit there with your hot tea? Like, really figure out what's going to give you that self-love and that boost of creativity for that day.
I love that. So obviously with a name like Visibility Vixen, I would assume that your ideal client, I think you even said it earlier, is a female entrepreneur who is looking for what exactly?
They're usually in some stage of launch, whether that's launching their website or they're live streaming or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So usually the women that are attracted to me want to dive deeper in terms of, why am I feeling this block?
Okay.
Because that's what I specialize in, is creating that space, figuring out where those issues come from, and then helping them with the tech to be able to step out there confidently. So that's usually in terms of systems or branding or video or live streaming.
So you're still kind of doing the life coaching thing, just with the focus on the visibility. That's
exactly.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's fun, huh?
It sounds fun. Yeah. So would you say you do a lot of one-to-one coaching, group coaching? What are the different things that you offer?
I haven't really stepped into a lot of coaching yet. It's mainly through e-courses and master classes, but I've been feeling really led the past couple of months to put together a group coaching program. So that's in the works now. And I'm really excited to see the women that come into that and what I can provide to support them from anywhere to 3 to 6 months at a time to really build their foundation and grow.
That sounds exciting, and keep me in mind for that. I'm going to have to stay posted because I have an e-course written. I just haven't fully finished it, and I have my beta testers in soon. So I might be a target client. Yeah. And it's the same sort of background as you, is where I'm like, well, the makeup stuff that I know is really, standard stuff everyone knows, and everyone's like, no. So mine is a makeup course for ladies who don't have 45 minutes and 19 shades of eyeshadow to put in one look.
That's me, so I get it. Yeah.
So that'll be coming soon, perhaps with your help. We'll have to stay in touch.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Ultimately, you just got to give what you know. It's like my branding course. It doesn't go through logos and fonts. I asked my friend Sam Bell, who is the founder of the Branded Society, to come in and do a special module on that, where I can then refer traffic to her. Sure. I specialize in the meaning behind color. So, you just take your zone of genius, what you can do incredibly well. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing, and just put it all there in that course, because then you're going to attract the people that are going to benefit the most from it.
I love that. And I love the term zone of genius.
Yeah, baby.
It's amazing.
It's a good place to be.
Totally. So my last question is my favorite question to always ask everybody that I meet, pretty much. And it is, if 8-year-old Michelle could look in a crystal ball and see where you are now, on a scale of 1 to 11, how excited would she be?
I think she would slap me and say, why did you waste so much time? You're here, but you're 31. You really should have gotten to this when you were like 22. My 8-year-old self was very bossy.
I was going to say, she sounds like a sassy little girl.
Oh yeah. I knew everything at 8 years old. I think of course she would be surprised at the ability to combine what I've been able to combine and excited about it. But I think she'd be like, okay, come on, get on with it. Yeah. You have a lot of catching up to do.
With the combining, one thing that I'm curious, and this is actually something that comes up between my fiance and I when we talk about my branding. Did it scare you at all when you first moved in to combine, as opposed to, I know you mentioned that a lot of the people who take your e-courses then mention that they want to reach everyone. And so many things say that if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one, but it's also really scary to niche down. Did that hold you back or scare you at all? To kind of put the life coaching and color meaning stuff into it?
When I first started with the Life Reboot, I was like, I help anyone and everyone. Yay.
Right.
And of course, like pretty much anyone could go through Life Reboot. Like my landlord, he's going through it now, loves it. So, I mean, oh my goodness, sorry, earbud came out. I think what happens is that you move from the space of needing the validation of your clients and your ideal customers finding you, validating that your stuff is good and wanting to work with you, which is what we all want because we want to generate income quickly.
Sure.
But instead you transition to really digging into why were you put on this planet? I don't believe that anyone's wasted space. So why were you sent here? What are you supposed to do? And what are you doing every day to make that happen? When your focus adjusts there, it's really incredible because you become this forward moving train and your eye is on the prize. And it's wonderful to people that jump into the train who are your ideal clients. And you start to recognize who they are and see patterns, and that shapes your mission statement and stuff. This is a wonderful surprise. This is the focus. And I've noticed such a huge change in my spirit and in my business because people are wanting to jump onto this train, but that didn't happen until I started getting more and more obsessed with that mission and why I was put on this planet. And I think that takes so much weight off of your shoulders, you know?
Yeah, that's super inspiring, and I think a perfect place to end. So hopefully a lot of listeners are going to start their train and have a bunch of awesome people jumping on. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course. What a privilege.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Is anyone else already trying to think of ways that you can stop these terrible peptides from being so rough on us? Anyway, I just wanted to really thank Michelle again for joining us and for all that she shared here. I hope that you loved it as much as I did. And of course, at the beginning, I mentioned that you could win access to her course, which is the Life Reboot. And there's more details about that in the show notes. And that's where you can enter to win. And that is at www.mandiem.com/episode 69. That is where all the info is. Please share this with your friends, subscribe so you're ready for her Fearless Fridays challenge, and don't forget to rate us in iTunes so that we know how much you love the podcast. All right, thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned for the next one, and as always, have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.